Right, the five abilities and abilities and its sufferings. Right, the initial verse, space has a name but no true substance. You see, space we often relate it to the physical. But Robert, I need to finish in what 5 minutes or what time do I need to finish by?
I think today got a lot of time. Oh no, today Sunday 7.
Sorry.
7 for Brother Joe, I think.
All right. Okay. So space has a name, but there's no true substance. And very often when we refer to space, we talk about the physical dimension of the space. But more importantly is that when we think of space, it's also the space of awareness. This space of awareness is, again, the consciousness. I could give you an example. The space of awareness is a thought. So when without a thought in stillness, that's an empty space. But if you occupy your mind with a thought, that space in your mind is occupied, right? So therefore, which I'll come to later when talk about the four inverted views. Okay, so it's important, just keep that in mind. So people are far from flawless states and lose their precept, samadhi, and wisdom. So this flawless state, so if the flawless state in that space, if it's not flawless, then we'll lose our precept, samadhi, and wisdom, right? This is a logical flaw. So we should contemplate on the objects of mindfulness and how the body is subject to constant change. Now, if we have that space awareness, plus if we are in the flawless state of Priya Samadhi and wisdom, then we have the consciousness of awareness and mindfulness, right? So therefore, we will then be in practice moment to moment. So lest we give rise to the four inverted views. Now, when we lose that state of consciousness and we give rise to our mind controlling us, then even the formful mindfulness will be overtaken by the four inverted views. And as a result of which, the five abilities and the eight sufferings will arise. Okay, so therefore, a power of the heart is just that of space, it is boundless. So going back to what I've been sharing with you all very often is if you want to have state of awareness in you, but if the heart, if you open it up and you take in all those virtue, is boundless because the space, there's no measurement to that space. And that space is with the universe, is oneness with the universe. So therefore, with these three flawless studies of Precept, Samadhi, and wisdom, then we will be in that flawless state because in precept, we should carefully uphold so that we do not deviate. So we are in the boundaries of the practice. Samadhi is that we do not occupy that space of awareness with anything in samadhi, in stillness, and then we can have the pure and impartial wisdom. So that's samadhi and wisdom. That means that no unwholesome thoughts they will occupy that space, right? So you keep that space empty purely for the practice. We will contemplate the objects of mindfulness and how our body is subject to constant change. Why is it that Master mentioned about this mindfulness of our body and subject to constant change? There are two things that is important to understand. And this is one, the body is impure. And number two, it's about impermanence because the constant change that we have in this vessel that we have, and this vessel have as a limited lifespan. And therefore, the state of that impermanence is important for us to understand because that is the state that will let us understand to practice moment to moment. Number two is Second, back to impurity. You see, impure feelings and suffering. This fall for mindful barrier is impure feeling and suffering. Right? And this is, again, these are the things that we need to keep on with under the precepts. So our body is impure. That means we are an enlightened being. That's why our body is impure. So therefore, and that is a big all of skandhas, 5 skandhas. So must always mention, you got the 6 roots, plus the 6 das, plus the 6 consciousness that come into 18 realms of 18 doors that opens up, that we can actually get into an afflicted condition. So as a result of which, if so, you don't keep that in mind, then we'll get mixed up in this 4 inverted views, the body's impure, feelings that's suffering. So we take later on, and we talk about the inverted views, that we will get confused with the result of which, then we think that a mix of impermanence, we got everything as permanent. So feeling as a joy instead of suffering. So that's why we have to have that mindfulness, conscious of mindfulness in us all the time, so that we do not fall into the 4 inverted views and regard our sense of self-importance, and as we see pure as impure. So much that the life that we have in this lifetime, that we have everything that we need, but we must also bear in mind, we must also be mindful in the space of awareness, that feeling is actually suffering, because every moment of worldly joy is only a moment between true unhappiness, because at the end of the day, we'll come to the 8 sufferings later, that when we depart from the state of a worldly joy, that is the moment of ultimate suffering. And because we do not even know what to deal with that moment of departure from our life. Therefore, if we continue in the state of joy right through the rest of our life without even understanding what that moment, the final moment is, it will be very, very painful. The 5 turbidities and the 6 sufferings, throughout this lifetime, we are immersed in the 4 inverted views as well, because as a result of which you're going to find turbidity and sufferings. No matter how we engage in spiritual practice, we're still replete with the 4 inverted views. So that Master is referring to that space that we occupy. What do we occupy the mind space that we have? So the 5 abilities of views, passion, the individual being, and the views that were self-views, Master mentioned about the views can come with 4 acute affliction, the passion of our desire, or the individual being, how we think we should. Some people would think they are, or most people, because of our ego, we think we're superior to others. We got a limited lifespan, and the consumption of the space of time, that the world changes all the time, when the natural environment, disasters that happen all the time, and the end of the cow part eventually, and all this time in the space, the time space that we occupy in this practice, it's not just about this lifetime. And that's the reason why this practice have to go into the mind continuum. And then can go to the 8 suffering, right? So the 4 which birth, aging, illness, and death. Now, this virgin illness and that we in this life, we cannot run away from this, and nothing we can do. So we can take care of our health as much as we can, but how long can you take care of your health? What happens if you live until 120, but you're not well? So therefore, we need to understand all the state of suffering, clinging on to this life at the end of it. It's not going to do you good if you do not understand the practice. The suffering of parting with loved ones, this moment will come. So if the state of joy that we have all the time now, and what happened with the parting of the moment with the loved ones, the suffering of meeting those we hate, the suffering of not getting what we want, and the suffering of the raging of the 5 aggregates, and all these sort of 8 sufferings, which you all understand what this is. Master has already explained a lot about all the afflictions. So for us, the house is ablaze and burning on all 4 sides. What are these 4 sides? The feeling, perception, action, and workings of our mind. So the the four sights which are burning through, obviously we often refer to, these are the four sights actually referring to the five skandhas, and except that perception and action, which is really a perception and mental formation that which result in action, and we can summarize it into action. So that the four sights form feeling, perception, and workings of the mind. So the four inverted views, the five abilities and sufferings all arise from this. And that is where we, our awareness and mindfulness being occupied the space of our thoughts. Thus, it says that it's spread on all four sides where the fire is. So the lessons learned here is learning the Buddha's way. We should not become depressed and frustrated. Why did Master mention this? In learning the Buddha's way, we should not become depressed and frustrated. I often share my views about if I don't like to use the word religion, because religion sets up a boundary between this, I'm a Buddhist and you are not. That I often prefer as spiritual practice. But it's important to understand that in Buddhism, the Dharma teaches you about the suffering, right? Because one of the first teaching the Buddha gave, the first turn the wheel of Dharma, and the other part is the Four Noble Truth. And first truth is truth of suffering. So therefore, if one understand the Buddha's way, it's very depressing, isn't it? Whereas other religion will teach you, oh, don't worry, whatever you do of sins will be forgiven and you go to heaven. So that's not the way we understand it to be, because there's long karma. It's not just about this one life, right? I must have mentioned that nihilism, that is a one life theory. It's not a one life theory. So therefore, we need to understand the truth of suffering. And this understanding is the realization, because when you understand that Buddha's way, understanding the realization, you transcend through the consciousness of this life. And that's a state of mind that we should get into the practice, because it's not about this life. So then, therefore, if you understand that, one depressed, why? Because death is just a passing moment of a practice. So therefore, whoever will an encounter, whether they come to life, is to teach us or accompany us in our journey. Actually, we should learn to be happy, and our mind must be open and spacious as endless void. So therefore, every process as we learn, our hearts open up, and hearts open, the mind has to be open. And so therefore, we be mindful of feeling is suffering and grow in our consciousness. So this feeling is suffering. That means we do not indulge. Because if you understand the mindful, the feeling is suffering, we do not indulge in worldly joy, and that's what it means. It's not saying that we should be feeling sad all the time. So the feeling that we are conscious, our mind of feeling is suffering, that we not indulge in that worldly state of joy, but instead we should be attaining the dharmic bliss. So we must then contemplate on the fourfold mindfulness to do this. And so if you do doing, then we will not have the four inverted views. If we don't have four inverted views, plus we are in control of the state of consciousness of mindfulness and awareness, we don't have those afflictions. Therefore, we don't fall into those five abilities and the eight sufferings. So in contemplation, with the abilities, one is obscured in knowing the truth. It has to be the case, because you'll be consumed by this, because the space of that thought is consumed by afflictions. So we're not knowing the truth. One does not understand the purpose and the meaning of this precious life. So our thought is consumed by affliction. Our life, similarly, will also be consumed. Of what our life is, because we earn this life from the previous life, right? And so therefore, this life is not meant to indulge in worldly joy, because if we do that, we can't go into the four inverted views. So what then is the difference between life and death? The longer one lives with bad intentions, the more one will then hurt others, and greater will the accumulation of karma. You must therefore be always aware of your intention in every thought that emerges. And that's the reason why my master mentioned about the space of awareness that we have. So fill the mind with good intention by filling the heart with great love. And that's what masters say, that we open our heart with a great love, and that space that we occupy is filled with wholesomeness. And a great loving heart will always have the mind of good intention all the time. And that's what we should be, having the four right efforts and the four for mindfulness. So on relationship, so you must remain courageous and strong in the midst of billows of worldly winds and turbulent grounds. These are the five abilities and all the eight suffering that come across. So remember, courageous and strong. So that and you can only courageous and strong if you're deep rooted in the Dharma. So whatever wind, how strong the wind may be, it will blow against you, because we do not know what our life becomings are. It will unfold. So therefore, we must remain strong and courageous in our practice. That's all the balance of the worldly winds and turbulent grounds that will shake your relationship and ruffle the turbidities of the ordinary minds. And that's why we have relationship, that we have differences, what it is. And all this arising because we got karmic scores to settle in relationships, right? So they will find distracting and disturbing. And we all know that we all experience through this. As a practitioner of Bodhisattva or the Buddha's way, as Master mentioned, you are in the training ground of deliverance with virtues and wisdom. So all these things must happen, and we understand the Dharma, and we occupy that space of awareness and mindfulness with the fourfold mindfulness and the four right efforts, and filled with virtues and wisdom. And how can you be uprooted by these worldly winds? You can't. So, Gan En brothers and sisters, thank you.
Gan En again, BrotherChin, for another session of wonderful sharing. Gan En for guiding us to be courageous and strong